Right, okay. This is Reincarnation of the Physical Body. I'm not sure if they've done it. I hope not. Anyway, it's March 1976.
I think you have.
Have I?
Do it anyway.
Okay. In all that has been dictated to the writer, much has already been written about reincarnation of those who live in the physical world, nearly all of whom have lived here before, mostly on this planet, or perhaps on another somewhere else in the universe, either many hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, or fairly recently, with as little as perhaps a period of 50 years between the actual physical death and the rebirth to other parents with the same genealogical family. So basically, everybody who is reincarnated, both parents are related to them in some way. And that seems to work with other races as well. But it's difficult when children get to 13. Where do they belong? Most return looking much the same, both in stature, although a little taller, and most especially in facial bone structure, which has rarely changed, but differences do occur, as reincarnated souls themselves change, and are changed by their different lives, as they progress ever onwards to greater knowledge. Many of those who have equipped themselves well in one ordinary life, and shown themselves to have a great willingness to work, to improve themselves and learn, they are given special gifts in a future life. This must mean changes brought about in the physical body, and will be seen by the careful investigation which is hoped will be carried out in the future, as this knowledge and instruction is given to mankind. An artistic person will have various differences in the hands and feet, and also the head, from one without such gifts. This is also true of those who have special musical ability, or a brain capable of great ability in the calculations needed for mathematics, science, biology, and organization, and many other gifts and talents well known to the educated. And I have ability as a healer, and apparently they knew by the time I was 9 that I'd be able to do it. So obviously that is something that's given to me. Only the lords of creation can bestow these gifts upon their people, and likewise they can also remove them from those who, having been gifted such talents, but never make any effort to use them. Only those who show themselves worthy of gifts retain them, for the creation is never wasteful, and talents must be given to push us forward in knowledge and hopefully give joy to others. There are those who have been given gifts, indeed use them, but in a selfish way, only for personal wealth, and to the detriment of others, and in which case the gift will be removed from them and given to others. It has already been seen that the Jewish wealth gene bestowed on them, that they may use it for the good of mankind, now has been given to many others. Very few of them, exactly similar to so many of the Jewish people, ever use it for the benefit of anyone but themselves. Having said that, there are a lot of very philanthropic Jewish people. It's hoped that when this book is published and available for all to read, that many of those who have this special gift will begin to find ways not only to create wealth for themselves, but for the world in which they live, not only for the benefit of others in their own country, but to help the poorer nations also. There are those upon whom a physical punishment is placed, those who in one lifetime have dealt harshly with others, especially in their own family, to whom they should have been kind. Here again, careful changes have to be made to return a body once vigorous and strong, with a basic weakness or defect that will bring about a physical punishment to the owner of it, a punishment usually richly deserved. So that is something that all these people who are working towards locking us down into some kind of an awful communism, or starving most of us, or really not helping their people who turn against their own planet and their own people. They should be shaking in their boots as to what somebody on the other side. We all die. We all live such short little lives, and we've all got to pay for it in the end. So there are many ways in which retribution can be demanded from those who, in total disbelief of all those things told to mankind over and over again by various religious teachers and prophets that have come into the world, still live out their lives in total disregard for the laws of creation, and even make a mockery of anyone who tries to tell them there is a spiritual life and a power beyond this world that judges us and rewards us for the way we live and the good or the harm we cast into the world. So it is within the Creator Lord's power to give and also to take away. It is also in their power to give a very deserving person a greater stature of body, always longed for in one life, a stature that they might have wished to possess for reasons of some skill or sport that they wish to become proficient in. All these things happen, although the reincarnated person remains one and the same. The only difference which he himself brings about by his efforts ever to improve and to progress on ever upwards and onwards, and learn to have understanding, goodness, truth, and knowledge that brings joy, freedom from strife, sorrow, and all the difficulties and problems that people in their stupidity and ignorance inflict on themselves and those they love. Only true knowledge and understanding can hope to bring this real joy to humanity, and it's hoped that one day this will come, via the efforts of those whose concern aroused will work to this end. Perhaps one day the humanity of this planet will join others from other planets who have come to understanding and knowledge, peace and contentment, and know how to live their physical lives in the manner in which the original creators planned that they should. Now, this is an example they give, an example of retribution that is imposed on the artist Toulouse-Lautrec. So, this is what they say about Toulouse-Lautrec. He had the gift of artistry, which he used, but he can't have liked coming back with his little short legs, can he? Perhaps the perfect example of one of those destined to lose his physical stature is this man, famous for the beautiful art he brought into the world. Born of a noble French family, he had lived several different physical lives previous to the one for which he was famous. French aristocracy of long ago had great power and wealth, and many had a complete disregard for the poor and destitute peasants who farmed their land. No poor but beautiful peasant girl was ever safe from the wandering eye of the lord and master of the estate, who could at will take some poor unwilling girl and do exactly with her as he thought fit. Such a case was Toulouse-Lautrec. In a previous life a handsome man and a great lover of beautiful things. He thought nothing of taking into his household any beautiful peasant girl who took his fancy. If she refused, she would be flogged until beaten and exhausted, and she had to submit to him. His pleasure with her once over, she would be returned to her family, beaten, raped, and possibly pregnant, and the already poverty-stricken family would have to care for yet another child that they could barely afford. As usually, they had other mouths to feed, and little to feed them with. Very often the young woman had a young man to whom she was betrothed, and the affair might arouse such disgust in him that he would find himself unable to marry her. Virginity meant a great deal in those days, and even today virginity is far more important than the average young woman who carelessly loses it to a man she does not love realizes. So it was that in a previous life this man had committed many evil acts of this nature. The stunted body given to him was a punishment for the cruelty he had inflicted on others. He was given a talent to create beauty, as he had a love and appreciation of beauty which in itself is a pleasure in the eyes of creation. Not until those who have perpetrated evil can fully understand what they have done and the true horror of it in such a way that they would never I'll read that again. Not until those who have perpetrated evil can fully understand that what they have done and the true horror of it in such a way that they would never again commit such acts are their retributions considered fully repaid. Actually, a while ago, I had a patient who, he had a very nice looking face, but he was very disabled. And I'm a bit like my mother. I can't tell you your future or whatever, but I can, as another friend of mine described it, is get downloads. And I was told that he had been a particularly vicious criminal. and that he'd done terrible things. I don't know who he was. I don't know anything about him. So he was consigned to living totally in the power of others, looking after him. And until he could never keep anybody who was sent to help him, because he fell out with them because he couldn't make them do what he wanted. So he's got to learn. So that was another example, but he's not somebody you'll ever hear about. So I've got my comment here. Anyone reading this book that I'm trying to get together with all the various different dictations that my mother received will soon see that there are many different reasons for our physical and sometimes mental defects, and not all of them are retribution for past transgressions. Some of us have terrible past life memories gained in lives when we have suffered during the terrible wars that are continually being fought on this planet, and we are left to deal with the impressions of those lives, but without the memories. Hence, some are plagued by irrational behaviour that, should any of us be granted the knowledge of what that past life actually entailed, our behaviour would be totally understandable. I remember listening to a programme on the radio where they were discussing the various cases of a hypnotherapist. One woman who consulted him for her extreme nervousness and agoraphobia was helped very much by her being able to remember under hypnosis a time when she was employed as a nursemaid on an estate in France several hundred years ago. Soldiers broke into the house in an effort to save herself and the children she was caring for. She stabbed the soldier with a kitchen knife. The soldier fought back, and the blood and horror of that time had remained with her from that lifetime. So she'd forgotten the time when she'd actually had to fight for herself and her children, or the children who were in her care. But the horror of killing somebody stayed with her. And poor soul. So it had left her with this terrible agoraphobia and fear of spaces. Many of us have health problems of many different sorts. Some have deserved these problems, and some have been visited on them by the ignorance of today. There are many children being born today with different sorts of autism and deformity as a result of some silly girl deciding to abort a pregnancy she has felt she could not go through with, thus damaging the precious soul within her, who may have to take several lifetimes to recover, and some will never be the same. And that could be any one of us, so we should think very seriously about these things. Some of us have the effects of terrible venereal disease, and God alone knows in what sort of tragic circumstances those were contracted. I'm just reading about the Borgias, and Cesare Borgia had syphilis. Ugh. One of the causes of Down syndrome is a poor soul having had serious tertiary syphilis in past times. I think I may have read it already. There is apart from physical illnesses, there are diseases of the spirit, and because sex is part of our spirit, part of our life force, to misuse it causes illness and mental defects of terrible sort. The most common problems today... Oh, I've done that, sorry. The most common problems here today are those of us who have very mixed racial heritage and the health problems they bring. All our races are so precious, and we should only breed with our own kind. Then our bodies will remain healthy and vigorous. Also, it has to be said that every nation, no matter what colour or creed, has its own racial characteristics and very developed culture, and usually we are happier amongst our own kind. This exaggerated concern with racism today would not occur if we all stopped worrying about what colour we were and started being proud of our nation and our culture. It seems that everyone who has to suffer in some way for past sins also gets compensations of different sorts to help them come to terms with their lives. It is only the love of our families and those around us that help us to progress. None of us are perfect. Right, Miles, that's the end of that.